Recuerda, sanamos la raíz cuando nombramos con ternura nuestra ancestralidad.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session of the open session number 2 for Rhizome Fellowship. I am very happy that you could all join us in this morning, in this beautiful second day of April, and also when we are accompanied by the Mayan calendar energy of the beautiful energy of justice brought by Hoptzi. So I am Andrea Ischu. I am a Maya Quiche woman from Highlands in Totonicapan, Guatemala. I'm a land defender. I am a narrative practitioner. I am an archig. I am a filmmaker, but also I am the co-director of Culture Hack Labs. And I am very happy to greet you and welcome all of you here. We are very honored to welcome you all here into this space. Thank you for your attention to our calling on the Rhizome Fellowship. And thank you for those who are joining for second time. We have hosted the first meeting to share a bit on our approach, on who is Culture Hack, what is the work that we do. And today we're going to share more into depth on the fellowship that we are inviting you all to join in. So I am very happy that you could make it. And for those who is the first time that are coming to our open call, I wanted to share very briefly about who we are. Culture Hack Labs, it's a non-for-profit organization that supports social movements, organizations, and activists to create narrative actions that are for systems change. Our core premise is very simple, but it's radical. When you change narrative, you can change systems. And we were born out from the Rules, an activist collective that operated between 2012 to 2019, focused on addressing inequality and the root causes of the violence and structural violence. So over a decade, working directly with movements across global South, we developed multidisciplinary practices that bring together data analysis, cognitive linguistics, memetics, anthropology, political strategy, always in service for frontline communities. So out of that experience, we formalized the Culture Hack method, a 5-phase cycle. As ask, listen, understand, recode, hack, you will learn more about that. Through deep narrative research to design cultural interventions that can see systems change. So this is like not only a communication strategy, it's a method for transforming the deep logics, the stories, frames, and beliefs that are marking certain realities and making seem inevitable others. So our framework for narrative-led system change insists in dual shift toward justice, addressing dispossession, colonization, structural inequality, and toward relational ontologies, ways of knowing and also understanding the relationship with land, water, life, kin, not just as commodities. One without the other is insufficient. So for us, this approach of justice and ownership is very important. And we as Culture have applied this method alongside indigenous movements with Brazil, Guatemala, Mexico, in different parts of the world, with land defenders across Turtle Island and Milpa America, and with the practitioners around the world through the Rhizome Fellowship. So we operate as a decentralized network. We work only with movements and organizations aligned with our values, and we share our research and tools openly because narrative infrastructure belongs to the movements that need it the most. So this is very important for us to share around our work, and you can learn about our approach more at culturehack.io. So we will share with you also in the chat the link to our website where you can go more deep into our work. Today we're going to share with you some amazing fellows that had participated in the fellowships in the past. They're going to present a bit on their approaches and also their experience with narrative for systems change method. We're going to share more information about how the Rhizome Fellowship will run over this 2026, and also how it's going to work the application process for this process to this year. And we want to share with you also a presentation of Rhizome Fellowship. In times of ecocide and genocide, climate crisis and the rise of fascism, narratives can be pathways for systems change. The violence against the earth and its peoples is the outcome of hundreds of years of monocultures, narratives about who belongs, who decides, what has value, what counts as growth, and the endless bureaucracy of the self. These systems of meaning were imposed, and they can be dismantled. The rhizome is an underground structure connecting root to root, decentralizing knowledge, a web of life. Is the metaphor and the strategy, a global network of narrative practitioners dedicated to challenge the assumptions of capitalist modernity and cultivate the new, ancient, and emerging narratives, pathways for regenerative futures. These pathways emerge from a deep questioning in a time where change is measuring metrics, likes, carbon capture, tokens of techno-optimism and market-driven solutions, while oppressive structures remain intact. True regeneration requires interwoven conditions for systems change: justice, economics, governance, land, and spirit. Change is a pathway, not an outcome. If you're a narrative practitioner, storyteller, land defender, artist, hacker, researcher, ready to challenge the dominant systems, the Rhizome is for you. So we wanted to share with you a debrief on what is this process for narratives for systems change and the call for this fellowship for this year. So you're very welcome to also join in and share in the box text your doubts and your comments. And we're going to share with you also the structure of this fellowship. So for this year, Rhizome Fellowship will be online session, 90-minute sessions every 2 weeks between the months of May and December of this year. You will get access to culture hack methods and tools. You will learn how to design and execute narrative interventions through these months. You will receive mentorship and peer exchange. You will join a global cohort of storytellers, organizers, and researchers that are part of this community. We will do a project incubation. You will develop a narrative hack with a direct impact in your community and your processes. And you can be able to participate during our in-person gathering meeting in Costa Rica, that it's going to be aimed to co-create collective strategies for systems change. So the full participation and aligned energy with the fellowship is very important. There will be no financial cost to participate during this fellowship. Instead, we ask for your focused energy and attention during the fellowship and through the final phase of the narrative pack. So this is very important for us. The compromise to complete the process is crucial. So if you know that you will be available every Saturday during 90 minutes between May and December, you will get the chance to come. The culture hack method, as I was sharing, is a 5-phase method. When we are leading through the phases of asking, listening, understanding, recoding, and hacking, working in an open source methodology that has been developed by land defenders, activists, journalists, academics, artists, and hackers to create narrative-led systems change. So also, this method is aimed to create epistemic justice and dismantle structural oppressions by seeding regenerative futures. Our method is also available online. So if you want to go deep, you can have it at the Culture Hack website. You can go also in a personal way of training yourself in a do-it-yourself way also through our website. And this is very important. Also, we have this open source developed and also available for the ones who are willing to come and also to understand better our approach on narratives. One of the important objectives for the Rhizome Fellowship is that we want and aim to share narratives collectively. We want to create shared discourse among organizations with the aim of creating narratives that can flourish within the movements, but also allow for systems change and culture change. Something that for us is very important is to invite borderless convergence and collaboration and organization among the diverse groups and organizations that will be coming part for this cohort, and also to create trans-territorial dialogue and action. Something that you will learn also when you're gonna listen from the amazing fellows that had participated also in this program. And also the process of collaboration and co-learning. This online container and the in-person gathering in Costa Rica combines our methodology within the expertise of narrative practitioners. So this is a process where the method, it's also a process of co-learning, and always it's open to new ways and new approaches led by the people that is coming inside this program. The two more important outputs that are going to come through the Rhizome process is first the hacking project. Together, we will prototype during the months of the fellowship to prototype a practice of culture hacking to solve regenerative futures. So you will have to work through your process. You will have the very specific assessment from the culture hack team, but also within the conversation of other fellows. So you will have a prototype. We're not asking for finish or complete projects. This is also a space for experimentation and also for trying. And this is very important for us, that to act. And something that you need to develop is a case study with metrics. So during the process, you will get some tools that will teach you how to systematize and or how to create your own metric systems to measure the narrative impact of your work. And this is very relevant and this is very important because you will be able to systematize your own case study, to reflect over your learnings of all the process, and also to create your own measures for change and your very own measures for narrative impact on your work that is specifically aimed to your process. So this is like the main objectives and outputs for this Rhizome Fellowship, as you can see and follow. And I open up to my mate Aubrey so she can guide you also into some of the fellows' experiences.
Thank you, Andrea. We're really grateful and excited to have a few of our fellows here today. So these are fellows from our last cohort that just finished a few months ago. And they're going to share a little bit about their experience and the narratives that they hacked. Our first share is coming from Anto and Laura, who are in Argentina and have an amazing feminist firefighting collective that is hacking the narrative around fire and climate action and climate justice. Welcome, Anto and Laura.
Well, thanks so much, Aubrey and the whole Rhizome amazing team for this opportunity. I think this is the first and no, not the first, but definitely the bigger audience we've been talking to internationally speaking. I'm Anto, and I'm here with Laura. Lau, I'm not sure if you want to open your mic before I share my screen.
Hi.
So these are our faces, and I will be sharing a small presentation to show you some pictures. First of all, the pictures have been taken by one of the FOIA's members. She's an amazing photographer, so we wanted to name her. She's Natalia Roca, an amazing photographer. So FOIA's collective, we are from Argentina, in Cordoba, in the middle of the country. And we are a group of women and gender non-conforming people that have been working in community fire brigades, which are basically people from the different towns that go and firefight the forest when the fires come by themselves, auto-organized, and we are part of that movement here in Córdoba. The collective, the main aim of the collective is to approach the fire problems and the problem of the fire, but through a gender lenses with care and tenderness in the center of, and bring that in the center of the conversation. So these are a few pictures of what we do, but mainly we wanted to frame where we are in Argentina. The far right government has been well, it's here since the last 2 years, and it's been really difficult. We've been struggling with our democracy, our basic human and environmental rights, and in this context, in 2020, very big fires happened in the middle of the pandemic in Córdoba, and that's when the neighbors started to organize themselves and firefight to protect the lands, because in Córdoba we have less than 2% of native forest. And that's why we always say that every fire is political. And these are a few pictures of that movement. And from that movement, we started organizing and participating in different community fire brigades. And we started to also experiment violence, internal violence, gender violence in our own community groups. And that's why we decided to come together on the first place. And in that context as well, there was a big femicide. A woman was killed, was raped, and she took her life after that by a very important person from the government. And that's when we decided to help in the cause. So that was a very, very important thing for us. And from that day on, that really defined our own identity as a group and started to show more publicly with these topics as well. Lau, do you want to continue?
Yes. Hi all, how are you? I will speak Spanish and Anto will translate for me because I feel more comfortable doing today that. Juegas, en nuestros encuentros trajimos la violencia y la pudimos transformar en algo propositivo.
In our
Y
gatherings, we were able to bring the violence and transform it into a more proposal thing.
nos reunimos en ronda y le damos mucha presencia a la palabra. Por eso es que la narrativa para nosotros es súper importante desde un lugar muy vulnerable.
We work and organize through circles, and we gather around in circles, and that's why the narrative and the words that we use are very relevant for us.
Desde ese lugar nos acompañamos y nos dimos cuenta que la narrativa era súper importante aprender a nombrarnos a nosotras y cómo nos ven los demás también. Y decidimos, bueno, encontramos este lugar en Culture Hub Lax donde eso podía nada, hacer magia.
We understood that narrative for us was like a very, very sensitive thing, and that's why we were very lucky and happy to find this amazing container from the Culture Hub Lab in Rhizome Fellowship. And these are some of the things that are very important for our identity. And this picture is very relevant because one of the narratives that we are working to change is how we use the uniform, how we are taught to behave when we have our uniform. And that's one of the main things that we want to hack. And that's not only the narrative, but also how we live our practice, actually.
Lo que decimos, permiso, lo que decimos a veces es que nosotros no vamos a la guerra, no queremos usar esa narrativa de guerra, entonces cambiamos todas las formas de ir al fuego que ya son convencionales.
One of the narratives that we work to change is the bellic and the military language that is commonly used when in firefighting, and we want to start talking. We don't want to say that we go to war or to combat when we work in fires, because we believe also that fires are sacred for us. Fire as an element, it's sacred. So that's one of the things that we also want to change, and bringing tenderness and family and our role as mothers and friends also to the fire is one of very important things for us. That's why we chose this picture as well. ¿Quieres que siga, Mia?
Dale.
And well, we just wanted to share a few things that we've been working on, like protocols for violence inside fire, different recognitions that we've been given here in Argentina from different groups, and we've been working in international international protocols as well. This was from Mexican government that they summoned us to help in the protocol that they were working. One of the most relevant Argentinian ecofeminist writers and thinkers wrote about us and our story in one amazing book that she wrote recently. And we also approach through art and dancing and pictures and poetry, we approach fire and the fire problematic as a whole through the art expressions as well. This is one of the workshops that two workshops that we did as our hack after the Culture Hack Lab experience. And yeah, it was definitely it was about narrative hacking and how we could open this tool to other people and to the civil society. And we first worked internally with our own group, and then we brought this to one of the most massive movements in Argentina, which is a national gathering for women and gender non-conforming people, which gather more than 70,000 people. And we also participate in different protests, in public protests and marches. So these are a few pictures, and again, a very relevant part for us is to bring these symbols and the different rhythms that we want and that we feel that are important also in our own practice. We also brought in the last March here in Argentina the different questions about narratives, and we wanted to invite and to do small hack there to invite people to reflect on how they are loving and thinking and talking about feminism, water, forest, and different things.
Thank you, Anta. We need to move to the next if we can, so maybe wrap up in the next minute.
Yeah, of course.
I know you have so many amazing photos.
Yeah, hard to keep it short. But about our experience in Rhizome a little bit more, I would like to share that I think that one of the most relevant things was not only to be able to work and see ourselves through the narrative lenses that the methodology invite us to work on, but also to be able to do that in real time with people from other parts of the world with amazing perspectives. And that definitely was like a deal breaker for us. It really expanded our perspectives and the way we were able to observe ourselves, how we were able to understand the impact of our work, and in what parts of the ecosystem we were really able to do change. Lau, do you want to say anything else about this before we finish?
Sí, lo que hablábamos del mapeo, de vernos como si nos viéramos desde arriba con todos los otros actores y darnos cuenta que quizás no estábamos tan cerca de lo que creíamos, que teníamos que cambiar. Y ese paso fue maravilloso también.
Yeah, there was definitely one aha moment in one specific part of the mapping tools that we learned that enabled us to understand that we were not in the place that we thought we were, and that we really needed to change a few things from our own narrative and the way that we were sharing that narrative and developing it in order to really be able to start moving around the ecosystem and connecting with other stakeholders and other groups and communities.
Beautiful. Thank you so much to both of you for being here. Someone had requested the link to your website in the chat, so if you could put that in there, any contact information, that would be wonderful. All right, next we're gonna, oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Aubrey Yee. I'm based here in the occupied territory of Hawaii, and I'm one of the facilitators and coordinators of the Rhizome, and I'm a futurist and a systems alchemist. So happy to be here with you all. We're gonna go next to Kishi, who's gonna share about the Uma Uma Rainbow Collective.
Hi everybody, my name is Keshi. Sorry, my video is a bit blurry. Let me change that. Yeah, hi, my name is Keshi. I am based in Kenya and I organize the queer community here. I am a narratives worker, a writer, and I search for alternatives to the current system. So I was part of the former cohort of the Rhizome Fellowship, and I will share with you a little bit about our collective. So we are the Uma Uma Rainbow Collective. We're an African queer anarchist and abolitionist group. We are not formally registered. We are very grassroots, very collective. We are based in Nairobi, and we believe our revolutionary potential and ability to fight oppression is dependent on the health and safety of our communities. And we do various things, community initiatives, very small and rooted within our lived realities. So we run food banks, skill shares, mutual aid groups. We help with rents, medical needs, and things like this. We can go to the next slide. So the inspiration of our collective is from Black liberation movements in the US, such as the Black Panther Party and the Black anarchist or Anakata movements, which were also inspired and influenced by African resistance movements against colonization, like the Algerian Revolution and the Mau Mau Rebellion that happened here in Kenya against British colonization. Yeah, so we are very full circle in our inspiration. So we were part of the Rhizome Fellowship last year, and we had a great time, and we learned so much. So our can we go back to the, yes, thank you. So our hack was to change the idea of freedom or the narrative of freedom in our community. So just to give a little bit of context, the queer community here in Kenya and most of Africa is very marginalized. We have laws from the colonial time of the British that criminalizes basically like homosexual acts. So that's ingrained in the constitution. However, even with this law, a lot of queer people's material conditions are really hard, both because of the law and also because of societal stigmatization. But due to neocolonialism, and that's a whole thing that I will not get into, most of the efforts or like most of the advocacy for queer people in the country is around decriminalization, or yeah, most of it is around decriminalization. And then for most queer people as well, the only way to attain freedom is either to leave the country or get rich enough to somehow evade this marginalization. So the narrative that we wanted to hack was trying to find freedom in community, and trying to think of freedom beyond decriminalization, because as we have seen, even in efforts of decriminalization, it doesn't always translate to the material conditions of our people, especially the most marginalized of us, and who have like intersecting and who are like marginalized in intersectional ways. Yes, can get next. So we were in the economies of regeneration pathway, and we were doing a freedom market that was also called a prize giving day. So how we did the hack was that we wanted for people to think about freedom, and one of the best ways, or how people, when we did the research as part of the culture hack program, as part of the culture hack curriculum, there's an ask part where we do research, and part of the what we got from the research is that a lot of people tied freedom to material conditions, food, shelter, and like the ability to like mingle, have community. So from that, then we created our prize giving day, which was an completely cash-free, money-free market sort of day. So as you can see here on the slides, we had drinks. So what we did was that everybody came in with an offer, something that they could do. And it ranged from somebody bringing together a whole food bank of farm produce. Other people brought drinks that they made at home. They were like a home brewer. Others held conversations on different topics that they were well versed in. We can go to the next slide. Hello. Oh yeah. So we to promote the event, we made a few memes on social media. The first one is a very popular meme of a prize giving day, which is very nostalgic for most of us. In school, we used to have a prize giving day, but the idea was for this prize giving day, everybody is the prize. We are all the prize. And to see that we are the ones who make this prize of freedom, that you don't necessarily require a big cost, and that you can get everything you need from the community. So that's what we did. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so we did all of these things. This was all our social media campaigns and what community looked like. So just to take you a little bit through the process of what we did. So like all of the sort of money that was needed, because regardless of, and we needed to pay for something like venues, but all of that came from solidarity funds, especially because some of it came from people we had met within the Rhizome Fellowship. So there was solidarity between countries, and they had done an action that got them some bit of money, and they gave it to us. So that helped us pay for the venue and things like those. So everything else, there was also some money from individual contributors who decided their offer was going to be in cash form. And then everybody else came and just offered what they had in terms of skills, in terms of time, etc. Yeah, next. Yeah, so these were just mostly just photos of the day. Somebody had made tepache and probiotic sodas. We can just go now. Most of the rest are just pictures of the day of the hack. We can keep going. Yeah, these were people who are talking about Palestine, Sudan, and how it relates to our country. This was the food bank, the free food bank at the time. And somebody commented that it felt like how you go to your grandmother's house and come back with a bunch of food. These were some of the discussions that were being held. Yeah, and I think I would say were some of the things that we got from the hack is so many people were very anxious about coming. Also, again, other than the queer advocacy that happens around baby decriminalization, a lot of community building also requires so much money. Most of the events are ticketed. Once you get there, you need to have some sort of cash, blah, blah, blah. So we also wanted to like change this idea of you need to have money to sort of create a third space or something. And I think that was one of the things that we definitely saw from all the feedback that we received. So many people were shocked and so appreciative of like, I can come here without any money, live with things, with also having made friends, having learned new things. So still some of the things. This is me here at the corner doing piercings. I'm also a piercer, I forgot to say. I'm also a professional body piercer. So I also did piercings for free. Somebody was reading tarot cards, a DJ, there was a tea ceremony. Yeah, and everybody was freely giving and freely receiving. And I felt like we completely stimulated what a gift economy would look like. And some of also the feedback that we got is that people were interested in continuing this and finding people who are willing to trade or barter or do a sort of gift economy system. And yeah, that is how we have begun changing the narrative of what freedom looks like. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Keshi. So appreciate you being here and coming in from Nairobi. And our last fellows to share will be Kim and Keone from Hawaii, on the island with me, sharing about their Hawaii Investment Ready Aina Aloha Economic Futures hack. Welcoming Kim and Keone. I believe they're here. Are you guys
Aloha,
able to?
Aubrey.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Aloha kako o Kim Kamalu o ke akua ko o inoa. No kwai aina o Hawaii mai au. No wau kalawau o ahu. Aloha everyone, my name is Kim Kamalu o ke akua moa. I'm from the Hawaiian Islands. I live in the Ahupua'a of Kalawau on the island of Oahu. I'm the narrative change director at Hawaii Investment Ready. Keone Lee is my co-participant and the fellowship. He's the CEO of HIR and one of the co-founders of Aina Aloha Economic Futures. Another co-founder is also here, I noticed in the audience, Mahina Aishan. So, hi, Mahina. I'll talk a little bit about Aina Aloha Economic Futures in a little bit, but I wanted to start off with this Olelo no Eao. It's a Hawaiian proverb. He ali'i ka aina, he kaua ke kanaka. The land is chief and people are its servants. Aina is the Hawaiian word for land, and the literal translation of which is that which feeds. So this proverb reflects a worldview where land and people are in relationship, and that relationship is what sustains all life. That worldview is really the foundation of the work that we're doing at HIR. You can, next slide. We are financial activists working toward an Aina Aloha economy, one that's grounded in care for land and community and long-term well-being. Next slide, please. Practically speaking, we're working at the intersection of enterprise support, capital, and ecosystem coordination. Our work is about helping people, entrepreneurs, funders, and institutions actually work together or work together differently in meaningful ways that shift resources, shift power, and shift narratives. Across Hawaii, there's already a lot of aligned work happening: regenerative ag, community ownership, alternative finance. These efforts are connected through a broader movement called Aina Aloha Economic Futures, which is a culturally grounded framework for reimagining Hawaii's economy. Our Rhizome project was built upon this work that came out of this Native Hawaiian-led grassroots initiative. So our work within this broader movement was seen through our work within this broader movement, we've seen that values are aligned and the work is happening, but it's not really adding up to the systems level change that our community is hoping for. So people are doing good work, but often, so it's in parallel, but not together. Despite shared values and strong grassroots momentum, the movement remains fragmented, lacking the coordinated narrative strategy and coalition coherence needed to shift the public discourse at scale. You can go back to the Aina Aloha Economic Futures slide. Yeah, mahalo. Therefore, we wanted to create the conditions that made coordination possible, unifying movement actors through shared stories, expanding what's possible, what folks believe is possible for our economy, and building relational infrastructure for transformation to start taking root in our community. To do that, we focused on building coalition power through Pilina for relationships, testing narrative frames within our networks at HIR, and generating insights. We recognized that fragmentation was the primary barrier, not shared values. So we wanted to create space for listening and shared meaning making rather than persuasion and message alignment. So our hack, next slide, please. Our hack was launched as an inaugural event in the fall of last year. We called it Vai Vai Con. Vai Vai is the Native Hawaiian word for wealth, but it comes from the root word water, which is Vai. It was a 2-day gathering that brought together our networks across sectors. We didn't design it as a conference. We designed it as a space to test narrative frames, build shared language, and deepen relationships at the same time. The theme, Envisioning an Aina Aloha Economy, invited us to dream boldly and work collectively toward an economy rooted in our values, relationships, and shared responsibility to care for Aina and community. We saw it as an opportunity to strengthen narrative coherence so diverse actors could recognize themselves as part of a shared story of Hawaii's economic future. Next slide, please. More specifically, we engage 138 cross-sector partners from 79 orgs representing 5 islands, including folks from community orgs, funders, farmers, cultural practitioners, entrepreneurs, land stewards, folks in academia, state and county government officials. Over 2 days, we ran 3 to 4 concurrent tracks for a total of 25 sessions on a range of topics from food systems to narrative change, community ownerships, and systems investing. The community co-created the sessions with an emphasis on dialogue, not presentations. Next slide, please. What we saw and heard from participants was that people felt less alone in their work. There was recognition of being part of something bigger. The shared language started to emerge. There was resonance around shared values, which we already knew, but specific values started coming up repeatedly alongside the adoption of certain frames, polycapital and Aina Aloha economic future framing. We measured our impact through feedback surveys, and people said things like, this felt like home. And we're feeling like a part of a huge, powerful, growing regenerative movement, less alone and small, more convicted and sure of my now or my gut, and that's seat of my knowledge. Next slide, please. One thing we took away was that coalition building is the narrative work. It's not separate. Looking ahead, what we came to understand through our participation in the fellowship was that our work for this project wasn't about launching a full narrative strategy as we originally thought it was going to be. It was about building readiness for one. Our contribution to the Aina Aloha Economic Futures movement focused on narrative learning, listening across networks, testing resonance, generating insights, and strengthening relational conditions for a future movement-led narrative strategy. Looking ahead, we plan to share what we learned and support movement leadership in figuring out how to coordinate that macro level strategy and how it could actually take shape. We want to continue with a deeper listening and testing and engagement across those movement aligned actors and continue building that relational and narrative infrastructure needed for that systems change we want to see. And we're looking into opportunities to partner with Culture Hack Labs to take that methodology into our communities of practice and build that narrative capacity and literacy within our own networks. So Rhizome, the fellowship really helped us put language and structure into something we were already experiencing and helped us to see narrative not just as storytelling, but as something that shapes what people believe is possible and what they act on. And then, as others mentioned, just being in a cohort of amazing fellows like Anto and Laura and Kishi from around the world, where there was mutual alignment resonance that allowed us to see how our bioregional work in the middle of the Pacific was connected to so much other amazing things across the globe. Was just amazing. So mahalo.
Mahalo, Kim, and thank you, everyone. I think you can see that, one of the things we really value is the diversity of the cohort. So geographic diversity, small organizations, large, decentralized, more formal. We had one fellow in the last group that was from UN, in a UN group. So it's about bringing people together with a shared value set to support each other in this very diverse, global cohort. So a little bit about the when, who, and how of the fellowship. We can go to the next slide. So you are the experts in your lives and communities. You're bringing that to the table. We really value that, and we view that as very important, critical knowledge for this work. And local knowledge is very legitimate. Place-based is, powerful knowledge. We look to the radical. So when we say radical, we mean, the etymology of that word means to the root. So we're looking to get to the root causes of the systems inequalities that shape our world. And we bring it into action. So, we value research. As you can see, we're all kind of research geeks. We love diving into the research. We don't research to put a white paper on the shelf. We do this research to bring it out into the world and to get beyond just analysis, to actually enact something in our communities, in society, whether it's workshops or new policies or discussions or social media hacks, whatever it might be, we bring it out into the world. So there's an action piece to this. And it's all about solidarity. So we're looking towards collective liberation, local actions with global possibilities, and turning our critique into solidarity and action. Those are some of our core principles. We collectively create a safe space. It's very important for us to have a safe space for everyone. We don't allow any kind of violence. We have, conflict resolution through dialogue and respect, and we really honor diversity and divergence. So we see that as part of our core strength, dismantling these systems of oppression, both within ourselves and within our organizations and within the wider world. So we're looking for full participation. We share all of the dates up front so that you can check your calendar, make sure you're able to participate. It's really important that you come to all the sessions, that you're able to come to Costa Rica. We want to just, name that there are some visa issues that are shifting in the world. So just be aware if that's something that affects you. We do our very best to help in that regard, but sometimes it's just really difficult, and it's getting, more difficult in the world as we are today. So that's something to just be aware of. The reason we ask for a supporting person is because sometimes life happens and you can't always be there. There's a few reasons. One of them is that, so you have someone to support you. We've found that people learn better in groups. So you actually can mirror each other, support each other, share the learning, share your insights. It also helps you to bring it back to your organization. If you're working in a larger organization, to have someone else who understands this work in your organization. So you do have to apply with a co-lead, and you determine who's the lead and who's the co-lead so that we're aware, in terms of communications and all of that, who is the lead, who is the co-lead. And you do one application together. That question came up a couple of times. You want to align your project with one of the pathways, and we'll share briefly about those again, but it's again all in the website and deeper dives into what the pathways are all about. But that's how we organize the fellowship. So we have different projects equally spread across the 5 pathways. Your project may cross over multiple pathways. Pick the one that feels most resonant to you. We want to have a clear connection to your ongoing work. So it might be a project you're just starting or it's in idea phase, that's fine, but it has to be something that you are actually working on. What we found, the reason that's really important is because, there is work that comes along with the fellowship, and it just really helps if it's part of your existing work stream and helps to actually, get your hack out into the world and the time and energy that takes. We ask that you really commit to complete your narrative project within the container. And this means it can be an experiment or a prototype. It doesn't mean the full hack that you may have, that might be a multi-year endeavor. We want you to complete at least one prototype or experiment that we can then help you evaluate and have metrics for within the container. And again, valid passport and a possibility to obtain a Costa Rican visa. And reach out if you have any specific questions about that in your situation, and we can let you know what we think. General timeline, we have a April 16th application submission. We start at the end of May. Our gathering in person is in October, so make sure you check those dates against your calendar. The fellowship sort of teaching piece ends in December, and then we give you some time to finish up your experiment, your prototype, and submit your final case study in January. This is just a list of all the online sessions. You'll notice that they're consistently on Thursdays from 11 to 12:30 Central Time. We actually tie it to Mexico City time because everyone in the world has different, time zone changes that happen throughout the world. And we picked a time zone that is consistent and doesn't change throughout the year. So you'll want to check that against your calendar as well. Make sure that time works for you. Consistently on Thursdays, and those dates are in all of our literature. We go through the different aspects of the curriculum, and then we have our in-person, which is time to sort of arrive at the point in the curriculum where you've done a lot of research, you have all this information, you're now grappling with what to do with it. And we dive deeply in that together in person, have an incredible experience. In person just has such a richness that we can't repeat on Zoom. And then we come back together after that and help you through your support of the hack and closing out and your deliverables. We break everyone into pathway groups. So we have advisories. Each one of us on the team takes a different pathway group. So you have like a subgroup, sub-team within the larger cohort that allows you to connect with some folks who are doing similar projects in your pathway. And we have monthly advisory calls that you'll design with your advisor to make sure it's at a time that works for everyone. Those are a little bit more flexible, but that's an additional support you'll receive from our team. We have lots of tools in communication. We're always playing with new ones as well. We have Signal, where we get, sort of a group chat going, the Zoom chat sessions. We use Google for, forms, calendars, portfolio, all of that kind of stuff. And we organize all your information there. So you have like a drive with all of your information you've gathered over your time. And then we have a learning platform and data processing tools that are always evolving. So those will be shared as we launch the fellowship. Agreements, Rhizome is a safe place, as we've said, so we don't tolerate violence, and we really take that very seriously. People are working on very sensitive issues. There's a lot of emotion that can come into the space, and we really value safety. There will be one leading, one assisting, as I shared. And someone had asked if they don't have a team, you can find someone to be your co-lead if you work alone. Find someone that you know, or we've got a Telegram group of folks who are interested in narrative work you might reach out to. So don't let that be a barrier to your application. It's mandatory that you attend the sessions, at least 90%. We understand life happens, but we really ask that you be at all of them and use your co-lead as that support if for some reason you can't make it. We'll ask you to use metrics, present a final report. We'll help you through that whole process and to write a short case study. And we really, scaffold all of that to support you, but we ask that you commit to all of these agreements. And acknowledging, as we've shared, that Culture Hack is really rooted in liberation, dignity, and the integrity of living systems. So we stand with the communities that are defending their lands against capitalism, colonialism, patriarchy, racism, militarism, and extractivism. It's really a core of our work to transform systems that produce violence against people and planet. So our liberation is bound together, and this really sits at the center of all that we do and how we operate as an organization. And that said, we hold our contradictions honestly. We're still unlearning ourselves, the narratives and the privileges we carry. It's a lifelong process, and we welcome feedback, critique, and productive dialogue from a place of grounded respect for one another to build our voices and actions so that we can do the best work. I'll pass this over to Tiffany to share a bit about the application.
Hi, everyone. I'll be doing that.
Or Melandri, thank you.
Thanks, Aubrey. Hi, everyone. I'm reaching out from Cape Town, South Africa. My name is Melandri, and I'm a researcher at the Culture Hack Labs team. And I also work as a lay counselor, and I've been in various activist collectives over the last 10 years or so. Very happy to be here. So I'll just be talking you all through the application very briefly, just so you have an idea of what we're looking for. So before you apply, we highly recommend that you watch the open sessions. We actually have some of the open sessions from last year that go a little bit more in depth when it comes to the methodology for those of you who are narrative geeks like Tiffany and myself. We find that, there's a lot more information in there. So if there's any questions that you have that weren't answered, you may find that they were answered on those recordings. And obviously also attending these sessions, this one and the one previously, are part of the criteria for application, as also of watching the recordings afterwards. And then we also suggest you read the Regenerative Futures issue, which includes our narrative report, which goes into depth about the 5 pathways. And if you have any questions, to read the open call, the frequently asked questions, or you can write to us at rhizome@culturehack.io. The application form can be found in the link. I've also shared it in the chat earlier. And the deadline is April 16th, in 2 weeks. So the general criteria for participation you'll find on the first page of the application form, and it's really just being able to state your commitments, whether you can commit to the full fellowship. We expect full attendance, with the exception, of course, like with life happening, as people get sick and so on, but being able to be present at least 90% of the time is really important. Whether you are able to come to Costa Rica between the 22nd to the 28th of October, and also join the online calls at Thursdays, 11 a.m. Mexico City time. This was a fixed slot and there's no variation. So it's really important that you commit to that time. And then also just engaging with whether the project that you are doing is feasible within the scope of your work and activism. We're not really expecting people to have anything that is like an ongoing 5-year project, for example. It's sort of just whether they align with our values and with the criteria of the pathways. And then also whether you were able to watch or attend the sessions, the open sessions, and if your values align with the agreements we've mentioned previously that Aubrey's gone through. We will also be hosting short interviews at the end of April, so we require your availability for that. So yeah, generally for this section, we just really want to know a little bit about you, obviously your name, gender, country you live or nation of origin, and a bit about the supporting person that will be joining you. We often find that those with a very dedicated supporting person often have better outcomes with regards to launching their hacks, as it can be quite a lot to just carry all of that alone. So I think choosing a good co-lead is an important part of the process. And also having someone present in your absence who will be able to catch you up on sessions or bits of the methodology that are discussed is really important too. And I'll be passing to Tiffany to guide you through the project.
Hi everyone, nice to see you all here. Just a brief introduction. My name is Tiffany and I'm from the UK, but based in Berlin actually, and I'm a researcher and an artist, and with Culture Hack I'm a narrative researcher and develop the curriculum. And yeah, so now to the juicy part of the application. This is where we want to get to know all about your proposed project, like the narrative you want to shift, the proposed audiences you want to target, and some logistical questions. And here we really want to also hear from you about how this fellowship and the resources and the container we offer will support you and your project. and your work. So if you want to learn more about our approach to narrative-led systems change, we didn't really go into it in this session, but last week we did. So please do watch the recording. I think it will help you a lot regarding how you frame it and understand the work here. And we'll send all those links in the chat again, so you have access to everything. And on the next slide, you will see that we will also ask you to connect your project to one of the 5 pathways towards regenerative futures. And again, we did go through this research that you can watch the recording of from last week, but this was a research project we did last year. If you go on to the next slide, I can just run you through the 5 pathways. What we did is we did interviews with about 28 key practitioners in different areas of regenerative futures, and we came up with 5 pathways to liberate land, waters, ecosystems, and communities from the enclosures of capitalism and colonialism. So this research really highlights the systemic structures and cultural narratives that contribute to the current meta-crisis we are in, and offers these pathways as a navigational tool for systems change. So essentially your project, you're going to say which pathway you mostly align to. As Aubrey said, you'll be in an advisory group, one of these 5 advisory groups, which will be your main kind of hub or home within the fellowship container. But of course, your project is probably going to touch on many of them, or all of them even. So just a quick zip through these pathways. The first is focusing on restoring justice and restoring life. So this first pathway is really about the connection between kind of justice, social justice, economic justice, decolonization, and ecological justice. And then the second pathway is about economies of regeneration. So this is about transforming economic systems to prioritize regenerative economies. The third pathway is called land back to right relationship. So the emphasis here is on land equity, redistributing land to marginalized communities through land back initiatives and establishing collective ownership models. And then the fourth pathway is bioregional community governance. So this is really about decentralized governance and community empowerment, which is really contextualized within the specific ecosystem. And then the fifth pathway is called healing the spirit, healing the earth. So this really focuses on the more cultural and spiritual shifts that are needed for ecological regeneration. And I will pass you back to Aubrey just to outline the next steps.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you,
next
Aubrey.
steps, and we will share this out with all the links after as well. Applications are open. There's the web page and the application link. Timeline is deadline April 16th. We'll shortlist interviews the last week of April. Then we'll have folks for 30-minute interviews who are shortlisted. Final decisions happen first week of May, and the fellowship starts Thursday, May 28th. Next slide. If you're not selected, we only have space for 20 projects, and we select 4 per pathway. So that's something to be aware of. But we really try to spread this work as much as possible. And so we offer your ability to join our network of narrative practitioners. There's a self-study possibility through the method that's online. And we have some open calls that we do that go in coordination with the fellowship that allow you to follow the learning journey in a way that follows the methodology, and then apply for future fellowships if that happens. It's really our goal to spread this as much as possible. Our resources are here. Everything is open source. Lots for you to dive into just with this list alone. So I know we're over time. The recordings from the first open call, if you weren't able to be there in person, is available. We ask that you at least watch both if you weren't able to join live. And really looking forward to seeing what comes through in your applications. So grateful for you all being here. It's always so incredibly heart-opening to see how many people are holding this kind of work and this shared intention across our planet. It really gives me hope for the future. We don't really have time for Q&A today, but Lots of the questions in the chat were hopefully answered, and everything should be in the materials that we have on our links, but do reach out if you have a specific question that was not answered. Thank you everyone for being here. Appreciate you. Be
Thank you,
well and
dear
have a beautiful day.
Aubrey. Yeah, thank you all for joining in, for sharing your time, and thank you to the amazing Fuegas, Uma Uma Collective, and also Hawaiian Investment Ready. Your
Yes.
stories, the work that you do shines our light and also shows the deep intention for Culture Hack to be in service for people that are creating this change, injustice, and also onto shift. So thank you all for joining in. We're very happy and very humble for all of you who take the time to attend and to come. We're waiting for your applications. If you resonated with this and you see my seed can be planted here, please welcome.